Hello everyone, welcome to this evening's episode. I thought for the photo of this episode, there was this kind of like Lofi generator website, so I thought of making a Lofi version of myself, at least the picture of it. So that picture, it's pretty much how I've spent many nights. So for this episode, I guess I'll begin by speaking about the emergence of the new humanity. You see, ideas are inspired out of experiential events. Alright, I think this is a better song. Okay. So, to dive into it, usually a person's ideas are inspired out of a moment where the moment has an external value, an external exoteric value, and has an internal esoteric value. When a human being says emergence of the new humanity, that is not one of those ideas that a person just looks at as if they're in a museum and they're passing, or in an art gallery and they're passing an artwork. The vision of what moves the moment is the inspiration of the moment. Honestly, I'm just this, tired person who has turned on the microphone. I've had a bit of a heavy emotional day today. But anyways, it is the future that inspires whatever that has happened in the past. One thing we all have in common with our ancestors and all the human beings that have lived on this planet so far is that they all were present in a reality and they were looking at the future. When I wonder what all the ancestors of everybody I know, the human species, all the ancestors, what they indirectly lived for, they indirectly lived for the potential of the future. What the emergence of a new humanity implies is that first there comes an inner shift in the conscious mind, and this inner shift instantly reflects in the outer realms. The human mind is a good word I could use, is that it's multi-positional. My attention right now is positioned in the present, but what comes with excuse me, to continue. What comes with the mind is an ability to access various positions of reality. That's the nature of our minds. Our minds take the location, design of our sensory perception, and they modify, and they, in some sense, the mind plays with versions of itself, of the way it has conceived the moment. In the subtitle for this episode, I actually wanted to make that the title, but I changed it at the end. When the strength of the future generations awakens now. Again, a double-edged sentence that can imply how the future generations, if they were alive and watching us now, and if they awakened or allowed their strength to be found in the present, how would that look like? And also another view would be how the people alive now, due to their care for the future generations, a sort of unique strength flows through them. You see, the human being is a type of creature that the moment it knows what to do, it has a capability to do it, right? And the problem of world peace is another way of saying, what are we all not doing that we could be doing? What kind of a humanity does the human being want to experience? This is the question. I think this is one of the most important questions in this life. After a person has, lingered in their personal dimensions, after some point, the passion for a collective life begins, right? When we look at the minds of lesser species, like let's say birds, squirrels, they are content with their design. They are content with their limits, and therefore the imagination of wildlife is the environment. But the human being has access to an inner environment. And it's pretty much the philosopher's question, as if, where is the mind happening? I can imagine in front of me, I can visualize in front of me, like, let's say, like a chair, okay? Or I could visualize, let's say, a statue just in front of me. Right now I'm on my balcony, I could imagine that. Now I ask myself, where is the statue though, right? Where is the content of my conscious experience of life, the content of my conscious mind? Lesser species, it's as if they don't care, or they're not conscious that they will die one day, death seems to be like a blind spot that catches up, right? For me, the human species is actually not here to know the world, right? The human species is here to actually know the unknown, to have a consciousness. Its intention is rediscovery of the unknown. Human beings are right now inside a massive simulation of language, rather than seeing like a sort of meaningless physical existence that's just being here. Human beings, it's as if our minds create spheres of our own universe around everything around our sight. When I ask myself what are the edges to my moment, physically an edge to my moment is like I would say it's like how far of the world I can see, like the edge of the sky. Non-physically, the edge of the moment is actually how there is an original attention. That means, imagine somebody had a spiritual fascination, or they wanted to know, let's say the esoteric, the divine, the mysterious. It's like you have to find a trail and follow it. And the trail of, I would say, divinity is through an act of self-realization, or I would even say it in a different way, self-realization. We have to find the edge of our world, and that would become the edge of our conceptual truth. The human being is here not to know the known, but to remember how the unknown is unknown. Two incredible questions that could be considered here at this point is like, an incredible question would be what is the world? And an accompanying question to that would be like, who is here right now? Who is in the world? When I think about why existence here is here, there are explanations that run through my mind of like earlier phases of the universe and whatnot. As if we're the tip of an iceberg, which is a universal changing process, and we're seeing just a little bit of how the whole cosmos is changing in our consciousness. What really consciousness is, at its core, it's an unconditional awareness. It's another way of saying, if a human being follows the mystical journey of trying to answer the question, or find an actual answer to the question, who am I? Like, imagine every human being wondering about who they are. And if they truly wanted to get to the bottom of it, the emergence of a new humanity would suggest a human species that is capable of, as far as possible, to conceptually consider that when the human being wonders about its eyes, it realizes it is being sight. On some level, sure, when the body moves, we're a biological, physical entity moving in a physical world, but in a moment of stillness, before there's an effort to move the body, the effort of the moment is being the moment. The cool thing about the world, and a divine sensation, I would say, of the world, it's like that's what a simulation is, a sort of divine sensation. Right, a sensation that the world, the past has not seen what the future has. Imagine you're living in an advanced civilization, and let's say a child is born in an advanced civilization, and there's so much trust, efficiency, and multidimensional perspective that leads to benevolence being the management system. And in an advanced civilization, people are too smart to be cruel, violent, or hateful. They just realize that it's a bunch of creatures on a rock trying to activate their advanced possibility. My effort in this lifetime is try to shift the world narrative, the story of humanity, to an ultimate story where it's as if all the physical dimensions of life have a grand purpose, and in the inner realms have a purpose. Usually the purpose of the outer realms is like inner realm ideological systems. Like a person doesn't know what life means, picks up this book, okay, and then the book tells them this is life, this story in this book is your life, right? That's like an ideological system, something that was manufactured in the inner realms, or something that was received in the inner realms, replacing something that is the actuality of the outer realms. Because we're a multidimensional being, Mr.Within's strategy for an advanced civilization is really that we need a multidimensional strategy. It would be as if, I'll say it this way, a child born in an advanced civilization would be born in a world that may not look like paradise, but it has the same trust, comfort, and contentment of a sort of paradise, which is, in a secular rendition, the limitless freedom. You see, what the greatest freedom man can give to himself is instantaneous being. That means right now there's people on the planet looking for freedom, searching for freedom, and there are some people who are considering freedom is the opportunity of conscious existence. Any person who is conscious of existence, any intelligence in this universal sector, is bestowed the right to be free from what it sees. The effort of the human species is to surpass its limits. I remember there was this, very Japanese comic book turned into an anime show, where in it there was a character who was trying his best and then he fails. And a greater, stronger character comes up to that character and says to be weak is nothing to be ashamed of, but to stay weak is something to be ashamed of. But to stay weak is. And it's this notion that if the species can see something better happening and it does not attempt it, that's shameful. And for how long should the species linger in an unsuccessful story? Do you see, there's sometimes in the void, success is what you input, what you overlay upon meaning. There was a time an ideology was enough for me. It's as if, okay, God's here, I don't need to do anything. Right? But then I realized that what God is a symbol and a portal to the inconceivable. And it's a matter of, let me tell you, where religious life or any sort of mystical life, where it can lead, it leads to dehumanized awareness that you are being the moment rather than just what's in it. Sounds come and go. Just like there's pain and pleasure, there is phases in history where the species experiences its inefficiency and phases where it experiences its efficiency. My argument for why every human being should suddenly shift the context of the story of the world they're telling themselves to one where humanity's advancement is present. That means it's as if it's like we woke up one day from an inefficient world and we were like, all right, let's see what the most advanced, fathomable version of reality could be. And it's an effort, it's a sort of maxing out. It's as if we're trying to get the species not to be one step ahead, not to be two steps ahead, right? But we're trying to get humanity to be as far steps ahead as it can. For the first time, the species globally declares that it is not afraid of the future, and then an era of global work begins, which it has not happened yet. Right now, people are indirectly, poetically, making the world a better place. But in actuality, what it needs is capability of individuals to be able to accept collective modes to themselves. Being a human being on Earth is equivalent to being a player in a video game. And the strange thing about the inner realms and the outer realms and man's positioning of of an experiential mind and an existential body is that our experiential mind, it's as if the player in the video game suddenly realizes some parts of the video game are self-created. What karma means is your influence in the simulation of your reality. We seek freedom, not realizing what is wanting to be free. We don't know who we are, and we have desires. Like, what is, being a human being is quite... It's like there's a genetical life, and then there's an ideological, subjective life, and soon there will be a cyber life. Right? It's as if the human attention or intelligence is juggling 4 worlds at the same time. And really, what does evolution ask from the individual? It has been survival of the fittest, but I feel that has changed to survival of the greatest vision. It's like, what does a species that has imagination do? First, it must realize how it has imagined reality. That's your inner realms. When a person has a capability to step out of their inner realms, they experience a selfless moment of being where anything can be anything. That's really what imagination is. People's imagination is all based on the context of the story of their world. It's as if what you have believed before you have been consciously looked at its geometry. It's like it's honestly the bodhisattvic phase of human history that we need to enter. It's like the most capable and advanced and, let's say, poetically enlightened beings on this planet. What are they to do? Right? Are they to act like space as if they don't exist in the world? Or should they in some sense realize that enlightenment means ultimate freedom? So a being that has ultimate freedom does not fear the conditions of its perception. That means fearlessly, efficiently, and benevolently, because we're smart enough to do so, the species will advance forth. There's something so fascinating about the idea of the advanced humanity, which is the links to the emergence of the new humanity. Civilization would be, you think of it this way, there would be pillars of honor that will allow the human mind to, in some sense, fade corruption, right? It's as if it's the next great story, you know. For me, I would say in the Outer Realms, the story I entertain is that the era of the beginning of the archaic revival of the castles and the clouds is happening. A sort of new romance with the edge of our world. We say, so many people say they love the world, they try to love everything 24/7, but let me ask you this, how many people really love the future? Because if we were to love the future, it would mean that we need to be honest now, and if we are honest now, it's as if, let me tell you what's happening. A part of civilization is living efficiently, let's say, or let me say it this way, is living well, a part of the planet. Now this part of the planet has told itself a story about the planet, which is sequencing its behavior, right? And now I'm saying that moment comes where, let me tell you, people are fighting for freedom now. People are like, you know, we're all the same, let's say the liberal right. It would be as if that freedom we are all seeking, it's a freedom that goes back deeper, to deeper dimensions before our ancestors had a personality to constitute any structure to the civilization, right? It goes back to the essence that we are creatures in a natural world. And it's as if there was a God, it would be as if God likes spheres. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's too many spherical influences in this realm, right? Starting from our eyes to the planets. That means poetically, planets could be the eyes of a galaxy. Salvador Dali, some people consider him the father of surreal art, or one of the founders of it, right? He says something where, if I remember the quote accurately, just don't fear perfection, because you'll never reach it. The species does not need to fear, let's say, how it may not enter paradise or bring paradise on earth, but the attitude has to be more in regards to as if physical reality and the outer realms is a chess game. And it's poetically a chess game between the self and the world. And it's as if, okay, what action does the self do? And then what chess move does the world do? Now, spiritual or mystical people, their strategy is pretty much you become nothing and then witness something moving, right? It's as if they don't start from self-identification. They start with world witnessing. I have this view that anybody who wonders about the world long enough will eventually discover the truth of it. if we are a multidimensional being, what percentage of our behavior throughout our lifetime needs to be just dependent on the physical dimension? It's as if, like, what does the species have to do so every human being wonders about the advanced civilization in their lifetime? There is no greater action. So the emergence of the new humanity as a sort of logical progression, right, is as if, okay, I experienced the limited, now what is the limitless? We are explorers, that would be, I don't have children, but if I did, I would tell them, okay, you're all explorers of an unknown world, and knowledge is how far in the domains of language we have been able to capture the world. Knowledge is like it's like caging a three-dimensional experience into a word, language is like a symbolic cage for real experiential events. Shakespeare has this famous quote where he says, "To be or not to be." And I would say Mr.Within's version of that for 2022 would be to be human or not to be human. I can tell you that if the world becomes an inefficient and cruel and just, this dishonest place, what's going to happen is that we're going to dislike the human archetype. That means it's hilarious, the future does not react to our causal position. It reacts to the effect we leave behind. It's as if, imagine Earth is a giant parking lot of a shopping mall, right? And so many people come and park their car, go shopping, and come back, right? And so it's as if so many human beings are born, live a life, and then return, to where they were before their birth, or what they were before their birth. So in this parking lot, let's say if human beings become ignorant, cruel, and just too much violence just makes, it's as if genius hides from imperfection that it can overcome, What I'm trying to say is, imagine 8 billion human beings, 8 billion cars in the shopping mall, and people have just been shopping, experiencing life, and then their life finishes. And now I'm saying, what if everybody in this shopping mall, in this parking lot, instead of, let's say, littering in the parking lot, instead of just, it's as if we advance the parking lot, it's as if I'm that person saying human experience is explorative by nature, right? Survival of the fittest was another way of saying an exploration for the best strategy, a search for the best. It's like whoever discovered a functional strategy or view, it's as if that would become the winning one. There's a victory in duality, and there's a victory beyond duality. In an advanced civilization, every human being is being considered to be such an advanced being that there can never be a judgment enough of what a person's potential is, And the thing about challenges in life is that if you don't meet the challenge sticks around, It's like trying to solve the Rubik's Cube, and you look at it and you're like, I can't do it, it's a challenge, but then you actually find a way to do it. And then it's no longer a challenge. Human beings are actually not just living in front of the world, they are living in front of their own world as well. And they're living in front of themselves. We are an audience member to our own life, you know, as much as anyone else. And to wonder about the unknown viewer that is being the intelligence of the moment, that's to me fascinating. It's like post-divine story fascination, you know. I'll go back to this idea that imagine a child is born in an advanced civilization, and that child asks, you know, its guardians or whoever is there in some sense, what is the point of being a human, you know? So imagine an advanced parent of an advanced child in the future. The advanced child is like, what's the point of being a human? And in some sense, the answer is everybody is subconsciously living for the greatness of the species. And we have been disconnected from this view for too long. It is now time for the a global awareness to how we are actually universal beings. You know, to choose to be a human being is to choose to not to see, you know, a part of the grander picture of the cosmic reality. It's as if the task of the species is, or let me tell you this, what we are is this urge and this force. It's as if we were born on the earth, but we're not destined to actually die on it. It's another way of saying, like, it's like saying that we are a part of nature that wants to escape itself. In ancient mythology, they would say Mother Earth and Father Sky. And that's how the human being was designed. Our minds are like the sky, you know. Our bodies are like the journey of an animal. The species needs to update, you know, the mentality of all human beings on the planet needs to revert to this vision or realign to this vision that everybody is an unknown being and unknown presence of attention, and the effort of the human species is to advance human life. And what human life is in some sense a series of conscious snapshot identity-based moments. You know, it's like every person's life is a sequence of actions, you know. The species rekindles the honor for an advanced civilization. People no longer feel their life has no value because the species is doing the smartest thing it can. It's as if we are preparing for the future in our minds and trying to discover, the strength that would flow through us to carry us into the future, actually. Like, it's as if hope is a pre-effort analysis. I think most human beings have an attitude where they want to help the world, Now, if we asked ourselves what is the best sort of help, or what kind of help does the world need, it's like we have to measure the ratio of external suffering and internal suffering. What percentage of the human experiences inefficiency due to itself, and what percentage of the human experience experiences inefficiency due to the world. Imagine someone is a genius violinist, and they put this genius violinist with the drummers, and it's as if this genius violinist, who's used to, moving, the violin stick gently, now has to bang, sticks to on the drums, right? So it's as if the position where that genius violinist is positioned suggests how its genius arises. Right, I feel that the story of we're just a person on Earth, a person in a place called Earth, is not enough anymore. Right, it does not account for greater dimensions where there's more unknown variables than the story of our life can be content with. It's like there's living mysteries going on. There's things that the species maybe doesn't know now, but in 1,000 years will. But still, it's happening. Kind of like when Edison invented the light bulb, everybody in history was like, no way, we could have done that. Like it was possible. The design of that idea was possible in the realm. And there's this view that the whole cosmos is intelligent, and not just the human being, and the human being is receiving its intelligence. There has been times where I thought, what if extraterrestrial contact is actually a contact of a collective being with an individual being? How would that contact occur? And it would usually be something in the lines of the individual. It's like a character in a video game suddenly realizes it's the one playing the character in the video game rather than being the actual pixel character on the screen. Ramana Maharshi is one of the most, I would say, far deep viewers of life, where he spoke about the screen of pure consciousness. That means that it's like some force is looking out through your eyes to realize how it's being here and happening is in a very simple way, like an instantaneous being. When it comes to the inner realms, the quality of instantaneous being, it's something that I think naturally should be cultivated. But what it is that it's like the person has a mind and they want to test to see how far their mind can go. And let's say everybody's DNA is different, so every person's realization of the intelligence of their own mind is like a gift they're opening. Imagine there's a physical gift you open, right? And then imagine there's a gift you open, which is how your mind opens, or you discover something that is living. You know, it's as if there's forces that don't have a biological, physical mind, but they're alive. The limits of life, for example, a human being communicating to a collective being would be like how the shaman was trying to communicate with the spirit and soul of the forest. You know. For me, I feel Native American metaphysics or native metaphysics, you know, was on such another level. That means if the native mentality was somehow preserved, you know, it was a mentality and an effort of life that was not orchestrated around the concept of ownership. That means it was like a free mind, you know. That means the humility of a transcendental being is kind of like acknowledging the spirit of nature that moves your moment and its karma, you know. Because to be honest, when the unknown is experienced, a person doesn't know how to measure it, you know. It's like, who knew the most divine experiences are not conceptual positions and stations. Our species, it's like a species that has been living in one dimension suddenly realizes it's a multidimensional being in multiple dimensions, and a new era in global culture needs to arise where we are so fascinated by the potential of the human being that we have no time to experience it. Like inefficiency becomes unnecessary when efficiency is possible. A species that realizes an advanced civilization is possible, it is in some sense and the notion of we become conscious active agents in the simulation of the presence of multiple realities. So what I'm trying to say is that hopefully in the next 600 years, before I've predicted the first Sky City will go up, honestly, I don't know how to say it. It's kind of like human beings have an unknown intelligence. And if one style is based on that, they become a being that has never existed before in the world, which becomes a sort of, every person is a pioneer of their own inner universe overlaid upon the outer. How does the soul of the moment move? How do ideas become us? And why has the human being had the ability to wonder about the greatest idea? It's as if someone's like, likes the idea of greatness and says there's nothing greater than greatness. And if we, for a moment, if every person on the planet just for one moment in their lifetime, they just sat down somewhere, closed their eyes, and tried to wonder about what it all means for the species. That means trying to look through the eyes of the species that would be the greater presence of the future generations. You know, it's as if the future is such a great problem to solve that we need all the help we can get. You know, it's as if imagine a general beyond time wanted to recruit armies and, allies in time. And the general went in the past and the general went into the future and brought all possible modes of reality. or excuse me, the general went to the past and went to the present, and it was as if like all that had happened was like an ally of mankind. It's kind of like putting your palm on, let's say you go find somewhere where there's grass, you put your palm on the grass, and for a moment you just choose to become an ally of the planet, an ally of all living forces in the realm, which means the future, when the future of the species becomes more important than programs reaching desire, paradisal desire fruitions, you know. It's as if once one has tasted an artificial paradise, something deep within the being seeks the original space. Or let's say the original godular space, you know, how space is poetically God's mind. Human beings are creatures that are imbued with conscious, creative force. Creativity means the relationship of the world with yourself. If a person within their inner realms, they have access to worlds that are different than the outer realms, then it all comes down to the maturity of choice. That means in this world, are you still living as an object, or are you realizing that what free will is access to subjective directing of the object, subjective piloting of the object? The mind is creating a film to motivate the body's movement. And that film is how, let's say a person notices, like, you know, a cup of tea about to fall and catches it midair, you know. The inner realms is how we live before we physically live. To become conscious of it, after some point, let's say it's achieved, I'm trying to wonder about what if the best case scenario happened, what would the species do? As if we start planning and we start living lives as human beings that is waiting for the advanced civilization to arrive, to happen, to emerge. The emergence of a new humanity is the emergence of it's pretty much the human archetype that was just defined based on singularity and duality, realizing singularity and duality are there, but there's also the void and infinitude. What that means is that the known and the unknown are like, imagine there's a circle, and inside it there's another circle, which is the individual and the collective. I think all of knowledge in the future will just come down to two major schools of thought. If Mr. Within was to restructure the educational system, there's a way where we can make it, efficient, where it's as if there's the school of thought of knowism, where sensory perception is the driver, and then we have the school of thought of unknowism. As if the major tenet of unknowism would be it's okay for the moment to be unknown. Every person's mind is like how a part of the earth has prepared for its, let's say, planetary life. That means the difference between the purity of ancient times and the impurity of modernity is that they treated the world as being alive. The world was alive to the ancients, but to the modern man, they're still waiting for, miracles to remind them of how much they don't know. The spirit of mankind is pretty much the quality that the future generations experience life. The species has to realize that when it builds a technological society, but the people on the planet are maturing it through their emotional dimensions. It's like an emotional entity in a technological world, wondering what the nature of truth is before it was, in some sense, incomplete. You can say from a spiritual view, it would be as if there is complete souls, completed souls, and incomplete souls. An incomplete soul would be someone who I would say their lesser self has convinced their future. It's as if they have listened to the lesser self. But when you listen to the greater self, it's as if divinity doesn't speak in words. It is instantaneous projections. For me, if somebody was like, okay, Mr. Within, if you've experienced like the logos or some interdimensional movement of intelligence, how would you if I was to tell the viewers what I consider to be here besides humanity on the planet, it would be this strange illusion of how the species hasn't noticed what it actually is yet. It's like, imagine, there's in a political arena, world leaders are about to go to war, like this devastating war, and some philosopher comes and says, wait a minute, before political leaders go to war, who is going to war with what? Where is the turbulence and the turmoil and disharmony starting? Right now, my background is that I was born in Iran, and right now in 2022, like, there's protests happening in Iran, and I thought about how can a nation overcome the chaos within, you know? And I realized that the way it can do it, right, is by beginning from a state of neutrality and then wondering about how the values to the moment actually develop. The world should not become a game that the species loses control of, because then, like, a danger is like there's an inner extinction and there's an outer extinction. The outer extinction is when a meteor hits Earth, for example, and inner extinction is when the human being forgets its human nature. That becomes an inner extinction. If we all start acting like robots tomorrow, it's like, okay, humanity went extinct before it did, So to build an advanced civilization means to build an advanced inner realm and advanced outer realm, or to discover the possibility of advancement in your moment. How our attention is present in the moment is the revelation of truth. What we do as an energetic being in space is based on how much we have observed life. It's like the species has to make a decision inside duality to free itself from duality. In the future, human beings will not be afraid of nothing. They will not be afraid of emptiness. They will not be afraid of singular individual existence and singular collective existence. Like a collective psychological singularity. Just like there's the concept of an event horizon for the black hole, I would say. In the philosophical branch, let's say in the metaphysics branch of philosophy, I would create a term calling it the event horizon of the human mind, the human archetype. And the event horizon of the human archetype is, you know what it is? It's like the species was looking for a secret, but then the secret was revealed, and the person is now left knowing the secret. So now, what do you do with a secret? And if the secret was that there was a freedom before there wasn't, from a neutrality back to the idea of nations being political leaders about to go to war, there comes this attitude, or let's say civil unrest in a nation, right? There should come this attitude that the people everybody should have a vote or a suggestion. Imagine, I don't know how to say it. It's like society needs to be restructured. And that restructuring it's like the end of all wars begins with the human idea. A rediscovery of what meaning is. What does it mean to be a human being that after 4.5 billion years has access to technology, has access to language, has acquired language, and has even access to an inner realm. It's like, what do we do with all that we've got in the most collective view? I think this is what separates a general from, let's say, the soldier and the commanding officer. The responsibility is falling upon the whole moment's consideration. That means it's as if there are those who see, not in the sense of trying to see, but they just watch how their moment is, and what happens in it is just instantaneously observed. To try to be free in an unfree world. The mind attempts its best strategy and then embraces the unknown. It's as if, how do we direct the effort, or it's like, what is the purpose to human energy, to energy that has taken human shape, human form? What do we do with the geometry of the existence of our body and the mysterious presence of the awareness of our mind? I feel that I ask myself, can I visualize what a species that was afraid, like if I wonder about the destiny of, let's say, the cowardice or the ignorance of a species. And imagine the question comes, how can we create, or how can we bring forth a new humanity that is starting with the idea of the most advanced in all dimensions? That's it. What honor is how the spirit of greater dimensions and destinations has been considered. Something I noticed that the religious psychology has access to, that the secular culture, let's say psychology, doesn't have access to, is that from one view, in order to truly discover the known world, we have to consider its shape being it. Right now, everybody's convinced that what they see is the world. But when we wonder about where the world is in the one that's looking. The mind is the permission of the reanimation of the outer realms. The inner realms are an unknown effort to reanimate. The human archetype is like the phoenix, The immortality of the phoenix was that its death was a beginning. The phoenix archetype. The concept of resurrection is so fascinating, because a person can look at this idea and wonder about the concept of the ego, and wondering that is every day they wake up from deep sleep. Has their psychology resurrected for the day? Reappeared, re-emerged? It's as if, when we were sleeping, we were nothing and we were okay with it. But when we opened our eyes, it's as if everything has come into an individualized value mechanism. I'm trying to get all the human beings on the planet to try to, in their lifetime, attempt the advancement that they have access to. The idea of how an advanced civilization is built is based on pretty much like, imagine a concert hall, and there's just chairs, and a conductor comes in and already starts moving the stick, and suddenly musicians enter, you know. Every human being, their DNA is like a unique instrument, and imagine, and suddenly it's like the conductor had started, and then, you know, the violinists came in, the drummers came in, and the symphony grew, and every person's DNA, every person is a gift to the earth, you know. Consciousness is a gift for the earth. The misuse of it can become unnecessary, but I'm saying, like, consciousness is also a technology. That means it's like modern spirituality, especially for the Mecha era, Mecha age, MECHA. We would no longer be creatures inside simulations in the future. We will be creatures that are the simulation itself. It's like realizing your eyes are the unforgotten moment of reality. The presence of it all, you know. The geometry that becomes the story of our life. When we wonder about that, we are wondering about it from a state superior to ideology. One has to acknowledge their outer life in order to physically survive, and one has to acknowledge their inner life in order to psychologically survive. In order to acknowledge one's inner life, it's a sort of all-you-can-eat buffet of choosing what context, again, to the world you're looking for. You know? Some people don't touch the mind, and they live their day as if they are the space being moving everything, you know? I have this even view that, you know, when a person is present as their whole moment of being, their reflexes become incredible. The mind is not like a body, you know, even though attention, just like you can move, you raise your arm in the, you know, raise your hand in the air, similarly, your attention can just, you know, rescan the moment. It's as if consciousness is revealing itself in the blink of an eye. And you know, I think it's kind of cool that we get to experience in 2022. We're still in the shadow of an advanced civilization. We're still experiencing inefficiency, right? The efficiency would be to, in some sense, release the genius of the human mind. That means, imagine one person being like, man, what if I could be the most advanced being? And then imagine now somebody was like, wait a minute, in order to be the most advanced being, we need to be in the most advanced world. The most advanced world is the greatness of everybody. That means to truly build a great world, we need rhythms, you know, and, you know, melodies on the planet, just currents and movements that's recenter true freedom with the activation of the most conscious skill. A way to even purify impurity in psychology is another way of saying, like, we realign to greater possibilities of the moment. wondering about human consciousness is like wondering if a question mark thinks it's an exclamation point. New human beings are arriving already. And I was like, what does that mean? That means conscious agents in the manifest realm. Whoever is existing right now, that's an achievement. Existence is an incredible achievement. But now the question comes, how will existence continue to exist? And it's another way of saying you wonder about your life beyond time and what emotions are accessible. Then you wonder about your life in time and what emotions are accessible. And there is no jumping to one side of the coin as truth. Game like that game stops and human beings just realize there's multiple ways of looking at the moment. That means one way of looking at the moment cannot be the whole moment. It's too dynamic. It's as if it's not just human beings that have a soul. The moment of conscious manifestation, your sphere of awareness is by itself being, I would say, revelation of multidimensional presence. It's like a person went to this enlightened guy and it's like, hey man, show me truth, show me God. And the person was like, okay, close your eyes. And then the person's like, okay, my eyes are closed. And then the person says, who are you now? And when you wonder about who you are when your eyes are closed, you ride the waves of your inner realms until you come to a moment where you're like, if the effort to the whole moment stops, there is no identity of self that's based on effort. So it's another way of saying, like, you reset your moment of being by wondering about how it's being again. A belief is like a patch, and direct experiences that level up our beliefs are like patch updates, We just need to position. Like, I think this is the smartest chess move to in human history, where the advanced potential of the future became the fascination of the present. That means imagine every company in the future, right, had this view where it was as if they are building something for the most advanced human civilization. And what is the spirit of advancement? How the unknown moves the known to realize, to remember itself again. That there never was an idea that could be the person here. That's the mystery of this is true mysticism, the aftermath of post-conception. That's the atmosphere of, I would say, an advanced mind. It's as if 100% uncertainty has been considered, 100% certainty has been considered, and now the nature of how the mind moves has become the greater teaching. That means once you have lived enough, learned certain truths about reality from the outer realms, then one has to begin working with their inner realms. And the cool thing about the mind, it's like a musical playlist of songs the person has never heard. And to observe your own mind is to observe how you are observing. And in that, the person is led to the pure lands. This is the pure lands in the inner realms, where it's as if no thought was needed before. It's as if the moment was complete before it could be incomplete. That is the energy source of the advanced view. Wonder about the ultimate in all dimensions, because why not? Why has our attention, arrived here in this sort of, shape of world? Why are we alive in the cosmos? Why? Why did some a biological process that was unconsciously happening choose to become conscious of its existential shape and design? Why did attention notice it's here? And so anybody looking for their soul, where do you think you have been looking from? In the inner realms, freedom is an instant of allowance. It's as if the person's like, why not? Why not? I wonder about the most advanced state of being and how that advanced state would be so advanced that it's already here. Beyond the simulations of fear that shackle the mind of the species to just how the outer realms define the moment. For me, I would tell you something equivalent to an enlightenment experience I had was when I realized I cannot be anything that I observe that changes. Anything that changes in my observance, I cannot be. It's as if the music of the person can play the instrument, but they cannot be the music of the instrument. The conscious agent, or let's say the conscious agency variable in the analysis of the system of life. What moves the world? Is it the world behind our eyes? Or is it the world in front? Or are they rhythmically, if synchronized? It's as if life, you go from a human being experiencing a place called Earth to becoming a being experiencing a moment that had never existed before. It's as if novelty becomes the liftoff platform for the mind that can no longer be shackled by ideology. It's as if we free ourselves from the idea of ourselves, and the potential of an advanced humanity is an instantaneous decision. That means imagine the future, its only religious attitude would be, in some sense, it's like, what strategy do we implement for a species to surpass unnecessary limits? Anything we can see beyond, it becomes unnecessary to some degree. Imagine people are freaking out and then they realize, in this universal sector, war is not authorized. It's as if human consciousness discovers that it's like a, kid in the playground, and there is, poetically, it's like there's a soul to the space where manifestation is happening. It's like the unknown administration of the laws of nature before we define them, Something is moving everything in order for there to be something. Our attention is the hidden variable. And whoever you are, I'm just saying it's time that the species lives in an advanced civilization. It's not a now or never. It's like, if we don't build an advanced civilization, the future generations will suddenly, notice, where the arrow of Mr.Within's bow, was pointed. It's like the more you trust the moment, there comes the certainty of the aim. And an advanced civilization would be like post-collective trust. It's as if right now human beings, they don't trust each other. But if we were immortal, we would have nothing else to do than trust each other. Do you see? So many futures are like, plants that have not sprouted yet. They're waiting. It's kind of like I can't see how the future will happen, but I can see how it can happen. Wonder about your mind. It's a hidden gift of the species. Thanks for listening. Much blessings and namaste. And the emergence of the new humanity is just an inevitable reminder. Much blessings and namaste. Rise, mankind, rise.